After about a year of 3D printing, I've realized something really important. My printers aren't the biggest issue anymore. My shop is. And that's a good problem because it means the challenge has changed. Now, this video isn't about getting new printers or updating software. It's about how I've changed my shop to be more productive with the printers that I have and how this fits in the way I think about qualification. So when I look at the challenges that I've taken on in retirement, 3D printing stands out as a great choice. It combines creativity with technical skill. I mean, you have to understand how the machine works. You have to solve problems when the prints fail. But at the same time, you have a freedom to think outside the box, to create things that weren't there before. But there comes a point when the hobby either stays a hobby or you take it to the next level. So I've been working with printers, like I said, for about a year now. I've printed lots of objects. I've designed quite a few parts. But now I'm asking a different question. What does it take to move forward? Not just in theory, but in practice. In an earlier video, I talked about taking on the challenge of learning 3D printing. So I walked through the printing process, the different printers that I have, and some of the early things that I have designed. And at that stage, the printer was the challenge. The calibration, settings, and failures, everything was new. But now I've reached a point where something else is holding me back. The workflow. So when I first bought my 3D printers, I had a very large workbench down in the shop. And it worked fine at first. But as the printers and the materials got added, the bench became crowded, access was poor, and workflow suffered. It was no longer supporting what I was trying to do. That's when I stepped back and did something that I've done my entire career. I did a process review, not with emotion or impulse, just an honest assessment of what was working and what wasn't. So the goal wasn't to make the shop look impressive. The goal was just to remove the friction and the ability to work. So what we did is we took down the original bench and replaced it with two smaller tables that could house the 3D printer and allow for more filament storage. And so what I'd like to do now is just to take you down and talk about how this setup is done. So this is our new setup. We have the two individual tables, which each can house two printers. And what it allows for is to work with the printers like normal. But another added benefit of this setup, it allows us access to the back side, where before we had to slide the printers around just to get to the back to do any type of maintenance. So it'll make everything easier and hopefully improve the workflow of what we're trying to do. Now, this isn't our final setup. As you see right now, we have the A1 over here, and then we have our first P1. And if you look, you'll see both AMS units, one on top and the one below, are connected to it. That's just because we've just completed a print which required three colors. But what we want to do is we're in the process of printing a rack that would house both these AMS units. So what we'll do is we'll put AMS units each side with that that AMS tower in between, which allows us some flexibility of printing,
4 on each of the 2 units, or connecting the 2 together easily to if we need to print more than 4 colors. An added benefit that we've noticed is that instead of just being able to view prints from the inside, we now have this available so you can get a better view of the print from the top side. And I think that'll be a nice added benefit to have. So the next thing to talk about is power. So this room is all on the same circuit, which is also the circuit that powers part of the rec room right next to it. And recently, I had all 3 of the printers running. Then someone in the rec room turned on our new electric fireplace that we just put in there and ended up popping the breaker. So it's obvious we need to get an additional circuit just for the printers, and even if we want to add more printers. So I did some research on what's the power draw for these P1S printers. And they have a startup wattage requirement about 300 to 350, and which goes down to like 110 once they're running. So our big concern is if they're all starting up at the same time, for a 20 amp circuit, you would be able to do 6 printers on the same circuit. So we'll be getting with an electrician here shortly to put in a dedicated circuit for the printers. So, and again, this is what happens when a hobby setup starts to act like a production setup. The assumptions change and we're trying to adjust to them. The other thing I want to talk about is our filaments. Before, all we had for filament storage was this little rack over here, which couldn't hold very many. But now we bought this additional rack for the middle, and we have filament storage under each of these, which allows us to do more filaments and also organize them into the different types. For example, on the one side, we'll have all our PLAs, which we do a lot of printing in PLAs. And then on the other side, we can have our ABS, ASA, TPUs, the ones that are require the P1Ss to do. And we still have room for all these different type of filaments that we've received, and trying to figure out how to make use of all these different things. Again, we do a lot of our printing in PLA when we need to do more sturdy items. That's when we switch to the ABS. But we're looking into getting more into printing with PETG and other things. So again, this is part of the evolution that we see with our shop. So the key statement I want to make here is that this is not a fancy setup, but it's intentional. It'll help us support the process that we're trying to do here, and hopefully increase our learning ability. So I've just been discussing what I've done to improve the process of 3D printing. The other part I want to go back to is the qual card concept that I introduced in earlier videos. Think of a qual card as defining what is good enough for right now to complete each stage. And 3D printing needs the same type of structure. I mean, there's infinite materials, infinite upgrades, and really no natural finish line. So let's look at the qual levels that I've designed for 3D printing. So the level 1, the basic watch stander. This is, you understand how to set up your machine, how to run your machine. You have a basic understanding what filaments are, and you understand common failures. And this is a point where a lot of people stop, and that's fine. But
going on to the next level, the advanced watch standard, level 2, now you start doing prints reliably. Results are repeatable. You understand the materials and tolerances. You can run multiple prints without babysitting them. And I consider myself qualified at level 2. But you can't really claim level 2 if you know every print is a surprise and your workflow changes every time. So at this level, the standard is simple. The system works even when I'm not paying attention to it. At level 2, success isn't a good print. It's a boring print. Now, I'm not running a full business yet. Right now, all I'm looking at is validating the system, the workflow, the repeatability, the ability to produce consistent results. The mindset is simple: to prove the system before expanding on to the next mission. So if you're working on tools like this in retirement, just remember, you don't need new machines, perfect designs. You need a reliable process, clear qualification standard, and structure that can turn hobbies into other options. So now that the shop can support this process, I'm going to move on to the next level and kind of look into starting in the business concept. And my first step is to look at doing craft shows, selling 3D prints at craft shows. So on that, in my next video, I'll be talking about uh, what we've done, what we've learned doing craft shows. So I'm Rick, and this video series is on my journey after 41 years of military and government service of looking for new challenges in retirement. So if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe, and pass it on to anyone else that you think may need it. So thanks again. See you next time.